Hello, everybody. Welcome to the last ever Sustainability and Resiliency Committee, at least in this era that we're in right now. But so we'll wrap things up today and kind of like look back on what we've done and mostly plant seeds for your activities going forward, especially in your own respective jurisdictions and schools and entities and so on, and city and parks. But it's interesting time we're in, and I just can't thank you all enough. That said, I'm John Strand, I'm the chair, and we'll run around the table going to the left and introduce ourselves if you could, please.
Tim Mahoney, Mayor.
Mike Williams, Public Representative.
Chad Brussel, Cass County Electric.
Sean Paschke, XL Energy.
James Hand, Fargo Public Schools.
Bruce Grubb, Fargo Administration.
Greta Greimig, Public Representative.
Maggie Majerus, Director of Facilities.
Julie Bommelman, Transit Director.
Ben Dow, Fargo Public Works.
Sean Rennick, Inspections Director.
Megan Elshaug, Planning Department.
Satya Hamidi, Fargo Youth Initiative.
And presenter at our last meeting. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda unless anybody has any additions to consider? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Move to approve. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Okay. Approval of the minutes of the September meeting. Could I have a motion for, unless there's any corrections? Move to approval. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I hope they got your presentation correct.
Yes, you did.
All right. We'll go on. Bruce, why don't you continue introduce our topic that's coming, if you would, please.
Item 4, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I mentioned before, I reached out to our ex officio members at one point in time because the chair and I were talking about, wouldn't it be interesting to hear from those members about sustainability efforts going on in their organizations. And so I did that, and all 4, thankfully, were willing to give presentations, updates to this group. And it actually started with Cass County Electric back in June of 2021. Time really flies. Paul Matthews gave us a presentation on sustainability efforts going on, undertaken by Cass County Electric, and then that was followed up by XL Energy in July of 2022. About a year later, Tony Grinberg was here and gave us a presentation on XL Energy's sustainability initiatives. And then, fortunately, Chad became a new member. He gave us an updated Cass County Electric presentation. That was back in June of this year. That was followed by James, of course, Fargo Public School District gave us a presentation at our last meeting, actually, about efforts going on across across Fargo schools. And so that left us with the Fargo Park District, and I spoke with Dave, more than happy to participate. Unfortunately, wasn't able to be here today, but in his absence, he sent Sam Damaris with Fargo Park District, who has a presentation and information to give us on sustainability initiatives across Fargo Park. So looking forward to that, and I wanted to thank Sam for being here. Sometimes maybe you save the best for last, but really appreciate that he was willing to be here today.
Great. And are you Sam? Yes. You want to go to which podium? Does it matter, Bruce?
No.
Go to this podium if you would over here, please. Yeah. Oh, the other podium, I guess. I'm sorry.
We had a 50-50
I don't know
chance.
left from right.
I was hoping we had somebody at that podium.
It's funny.
I think I have the power to control this here. Yep, looks like it. So, all right. Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity here today to give you an update on some of the sustainability efforts going on through Fargo Parks and some of our partners. Like mentioned, my name's Sam Demra. I'm the forester with the Park District. I've been in this role since 2014 and with the Park District since 2011. Kind of our conservation efforts at a glance as of today is we've done 220 acres of prairie restoration across 23 different sites. And then also kind of a new trend is installing some pollinator gardens, so converting some of our maybe traditional landscape areas or some new areas into a pollinator garden. And there's 10 different sites and then 29 different pollinator gardens in those sites. A big project that is sort of, is in partnership with the city of Fargo, of course, and that many of you are aware of as we're calling it, the Southwest Regional Pond Recreational Area. And we were successfully awarded an Outdoor Heritage Fund grant to kind of start off some of the natural amenities of that park or that recreational area, which will include 80 acres of native prairie plantings, some gravel trails, about 3,000 feet of those, some interpretive signage along the way, really kind of offering that educational component to it as well. And then the dry creek beds are really just the way for some of the erosion or the water to flow down to the pond through the prairie areas as well. I think long term, we're really hoping to have some concrete trails out here, possibly some fishing opportunities, and then some shelters available as well. So this is an exciting project that we'll continue to be working on and look to fund and find ways that we can continue to complete it. Urban Plains Park in South Fargo, right across from Shields Arena, as many of you know, is 12 acres, which has been, kind of converted from 2 large ponds at one point that weren't holding and redone sort of into this sort of babbling stream that rolls through there. And we've really had a lot of success in restoring some of that area. And then just a few years back, started kind of an educational prairie trail. So up along the sidewalk, done really a ton of efforts working with United Prairie Foundation, Cass County Soil Conservation District, the City of Fargo, and North Dakota Game and Fish, and planting a lot of pollinator species right up along the concrete trail. And the amount of butterflies and things like that that have now come to that park has really grown to where we've even started a monarch tagging event, which has really taken off. This was our 3rd year this year, and really all we do is provide some nets, some sidewalk chalk, and a little bit of education, and we get like over 300 kids and people that come to this event to catch a monarch butterfly and put a little sticker on its wing, and then we record that data, and if it flies down to Mexico and gets recorded in the database there, then we hear back that one of our monarchs made the migration all the way to Mexico. So it's a pretty cool event that really doesn't have a lot of input other than the plants and having the monarchs there. And this year we caught over 150 monarchs in just 2 hours, so that was a big success. And the running bet still is if that we ever get a tagged monarch of ours caught in Mexico, then I have to wear a monarch costume to the event the next year. So I do want one of them to make it there, but I guess that day will come if it does. Then we also did continue this project this year. United Prairie Foundation was awarded some money through Outdoor Heritage Fund to really add on to this project. So there'll be more pollinator gardens in Urban Plains Park, some more educational signage, and then some extensions of the gravel trail that kind of meanders through the basin of the prairie there. Over the past few years, we've really worked on a lot some of our nature parks, as we're coining them now. So we have Heritage Hills Park, which is about 45 acres. And then through North Dakota Parks and Recreational Trails program, we've been able to add these 6-foot wide, they're called crusher fines or crushed gravel. It's different than your typical road gravel. It sets up a lot harder, so it can be utilized by different traffic, bikes, and even wheelchairs when it's set up properly. So these have been a big hit. We get a lot of compliments about how people like using these trails, especially runners and things. And then obviously it's a lot more cost effective than asphalt or concrete in the right area.
Where is that park?
That is all the way south on University. I think it's like 85th or 88th Avenue South. So even further south than Davies or Forest River area. And then it is on the east side of University, adjacent to the Red River. Then Orchard Glen Park, we've really put in a lot of work here. You can see some in the picture of the big addition lately through that Trails Program grant is these, over 1.5 miles of that 6-foot wide crushed gravel, and then adding some pollinator gardens and replacing some old dilapidated trees and things like that with new varieties of fruit trees. So it's not just an apple orchard now. There's apple, pear, cherry, plum, mulberry, and then some edible shrubs and things like that as well. And then all of these parks, the gravel trails all double as groomed ski trails in the winter as well. So they've really been a big hit and seen a lot of use numbers kind of continuing to climb in those parks. Forest River is another one of those. Really more of the same at Orchard Glen, except for it doesn't have the orchard component, but is really kind of the destination for birding. I think there's over 206 bird species that are, monitored and identified there. And then we also work closely with Audubon Great Plains to host the winter and spring birding festivals.
Where's that park?
Forest River is going to be just east of Davies, across University, and pretty much adjacent to the Orchard Glen Park as well.
You can tell who the geographically challenged person here is.
Yeah, I didn't know they existed until just a few years ago myself, so. And then really continuing to, engage the community in these efforts, so putting in a lot of really just saying yes to volunteer opportunities that continue to come our way, starting right away in the spring with the United Way. They have their big day of caring, and I think last year we had 70 volunteers working with us on 3 different projects for that event. And then of course we have our Arbor Day events, but we've also been hosting an apple tree pruning workshop, the birding festivals like we mentioned, and then the monarch tagging event. Trying to be a part of National Public Lands Day as well. And then our Reforest the Red project has continued to grow and grow with usually between 400 and 500 volunteers. And our new effort is to really pair up with Shanley Deacon Days, and we get about 150 kids from that. So we try to align our schedule with them to make sure we get those volunteers for Reforest the Red. So that's always been a collaboration of either park property or City of Fargo, floodplain buyout property, and just, reestablishing trees adjacent to the Red River on those projects, and a lot of support with either grant funding through the North Dakota Forest Service, and then collaboration with the River Keepers and City of Fargo. And really all the prairie restoration work started with Audubon Dakota, now Audubon Great Plains, but in this Urban Woods and Prairies initiative. So back in 2014, they kind of came to us and just looking for property, and now that's continued to grow. There's still projects being funded by that original initiative, so it's going on over 10 years now. And then in 2023, we started sort of a new project called the Urban Pollinator Plots Project, UPP for short. And that was some additional sites like our North Softball Complex, some at Mickelson Fields, Eagle Valley Park, Golden Valley Park, and then some additional work at Forest River. And really the plots portion is they're just smaller areas that doesn't have to be vast tracts of land. But really, you can take an area that's maybe 3 different species of turf grass, and by doing these prairie restorations, you can have up to 70 different species in that area. So you're really diversifying the flora and the environment just by using a small tract of land and providing a lot better habitat as well. So that's kind of the other few small things we're continuing to do is building some new shelters out of reclaimed lumber, which are, if you've been to Lindenwood Park recently along the new road, there's some new shelters there. And if you look at the woodwork, those were all trees that were salvaged from building the road or trees that we've had to take down. So we also have some of those at Oak Grove Park, a new one at Orchard Glen, and then we'll be building another one coming up here at Lions Conservancy Park off of South University. So looking at ways we can, reduce our wood waste and reutilize it. And, those are kind of another fun project that I wanted to mention. But that's, really all I have for our presentation, and would like to open it up to any questions or comments if you have any.
So Sam, I've been working on a project up north and with a prairie area that I'm trying to restore, and maybe I'm naive, but I'm thinking I can turn it into pollinator and prairie grass and have both. But I've had trouble finding resources and sources and finding seed that's appropriate for our climate and stuff. Where do people start, and how do you direct them to go in the public? And I know Public Works used to have examples of showing people what type of what grows here naturally, but where do people begin?
Yeah, that can be difficult. We worked a lot with prairie restoration, which is now Minnesota Native Landscape, and they do good work across a large scale and more so a tri-state area. But this other entity that we've been working a lot with called United Prairie Foundation, their initiative is really putting real North Dakota prairie, even just more specifically Red River Valley prairie, back into the Red River Valley. So they specialize in harvesting like true native local ecotype seed right from the Red River Valley and reutilizing that. So I think that's probably the best resource out there right now, and the most locally dedicated group that's looking at doing that type of work.
I would second that plug for United Prairie Foundation. That's who we're using for our prairie garden as well. And like Sam said, he's local. They're based in Angela, North Dakota. So great resource there.
And it's native seed and native
Yep.
plantings and.
He does his own harvesting and everything of all the seed. If you have a chance to sit down with Mark, he's very educational and does a good job of explaining it, and we can get you his contact information, because we are also using him as well for our projects across the city we are doing.
So when the next iteration of the Sustainability Resiliency Committee comes around, we can have them present.
Yeah, he was here
Mark
maybe
was-
a year ago with me
It's-
presenting on some
Okay.
of this. So, yeah, excellent resource. And typically you can buy some of this seed and things, but it might be from Kansas, it might be from Texas, it might be from Oregon. When he's going out to local remnant prairies that still exist around the Red River Valley and only utilizing that seed. So it's really truly native prairie.
One of our very first presentations was Casey Steele, if I recall, and she's talking about carbon sequestration through natural prairie and natural habitat and planting and so on. And that was maybe the first I ever heard of a lot of that,
Yep.
informationally. Who else has questions or feedback here for Sam?
Kind of a basic question, but how do you get your recruitment for volunteering events?
Well, really, a lot of it is kind of gained traction organically just through, individual opportunities or people reaching out to the park district just to see if there were, or like our business partners. But River Keepers does a lot of that volunteer recruitment for, per se, the Reforest the Red event. And then we've worked a lot with United Way. So on the United Way Day of Caring, we basically say, we have a project, we can take up to 60 people, and we just kind of set up the logistics of the project, and they recruit all the volunteers through that day. So those are two good examples. The other ones of just establishing a partnership with like Shields and Bell Bank, so they know that we're good resources to provide them projects to come out and do those things. And not many entities are going to say, yeah, bring 100 people for 4 hours and we'll find something for you to do. But we've been able to do that and do it successfully, year in and year out. So we've kind of gained a lot of traction that way to be just a good resource to find volunteer projects for people in the community.
You should get that, we should reach out to the school district and to the student leaders, and you might have a good bridge there for them to have activity with the new youth initiative unfolding.
Yeah, and I know that with our environmental club at Davies, we've had river keepers come in and advertise volunteering opportunities. But I think with the New Fargo Youth Initiative, we could definitely expand that and just make it more accessible to everyone.
Good thinking. Who else?
I have a question. Thanks for your overview. It was very interesting. Any chance that the city might expand some of their edible plantings to other parks?
We've certainly considered that and have planted some more, not crab apple trees, but sort of domestic fruit-bearing apple trees in some of the parks. And looking at that, it's always kind of a balance of, a mess they might make, and if they are going to get utilized. We do have some kind of edible ornamental annual gardens. I know like the one at Ole Tangen downtown has been consistently planted with peppers and heirloom tomatoes and ornamental kale and things like that. But yeah, sort of a balance between maintenance and oftentimes those edible plants aren't as aesthetically pleasing or hardy maybe as some of the newer varieties and things like that. So just something to continue to think about or how we could evolve.
It's an interesting question, Greta. If somebody goes out and picks pears or fruit or off a fruit tree, is that welcome?
Yeah, we have guidelines and do welcome it at the orchard, and it is acceptable, at any tree really throughout the parks. Another discussed component of it is it almost always has to be labeled then that it is edible, because there are a lot of little berries and things on other plants that could be toxic, if consumed in large quantities, just in like common landscape plants that many people aren't aware of. So that's always kind of considered when you start opening things up to be consumed. It definitely would have to be labeled and kind of specified as an area that's designed for that. So
Anybody else? It's really nice to see, and that's one of the values of us having these visits, is we can hear what each other are doing, what we can learn what the Parks District is doing, we can learn what the school district is doing, and a lot of folks don't know that the city's not all of them. They're their own entities, and this is really good information. Anybody else before we wrap up with Sam? We'll have to make sure we connect the students. Okay, thank you very much.
yeah, thank you for the opportunity, and the prairie restoration work has been a really fun project to work on, and the parks gets a lot of positive comments about it. There's definitely a right way and right place to put it, because there can be a lot of negative connotation with it too, and people thinking it's weeds. But I think the city of Fargo can continue to grow with the kind of energy we have in the prairie restoration efforts. And I'm not saying it needs to be everywhere, but there's a right place, and a lot of places it could be utilized to improve our community. So thank you.
Sam, sometime could you just send the map, so John knows where these are? Can you send us a map of where these are throughout the city? Because we do get that question sometimes, is cities, is Ben supposed to be mowing it, or what's supposed to be going on? But I think it'd be nice to see what the park board is doing. And then Ben, maybe complimenting that, you could send out where we have a lot of these parks as well.
And Sam, I have another question before you leave the podium. How much is the Park District utilizing AI? I was at a recent conference, and the applications and utilizations of AI are just beyond comprehension. Things like canopy coverage for trees, or things like that, or finding and honing in on ash trees and or elm trees. How far down that rabbit hole are you all now going?
We're certainly using a lot of technology. I don't know if you would classify it quite as AI yet, but we have, our tree inventory system, so we know what every tree is and where it is. We did partner with the city of Fargo on a canopy cover LiDAR study back in 2020 or 2021, so we do have a lot of that information as well. And right now we're looking at doing that again to get some more updated information, and that technology has drastically changed as well, so it's easier to do, more instantaneous. So, and the other thing that we're using a lot is I forget the name of it, but it basically allows us to track public use of areas through, basically it's tracking where people's cell phones are. I'm sure plenty of people are aware of that, but we can get a better understanding of how many people actually go to Forest River Park in a summer, or how many people actually go to Lindenwood or the Red River Trail. So we're using that information to help make decisions and plan as well.
Ben, are you using AI much? And Esri, is that through your department?
No, Esri's through IS. It started in engineering, and so
Okay.
that's where, but we do a lot of it with our mapping and stuff we do with our sewer televising and stuff like that, and our manhole scans. So we're building out the condition reports and assessments based on that. So that's what we're using mostly.
I took you down a different corner here, but thank
Yep.
you. Anybody else for Sam before he wraps up?
On the topic of AI, I know that there's data centers being opened around Fargo. What would your policy be if someone were to want to implement a data center in one of the parks? Like, would you guys give one up, or do you guys have regulations about that?
I don't think I'm the forester, so yeah, I'd ask Susan about that, but
Thank you.
That's an interesting question, too.
yeah,
Who'd have thought that question would surface a few years ago?
yeah.
Maybe our Excel
I
or
can share
Cass
my
County
opinion,
folks.
but yeah.
Anybody else? Bruce?
I just want to issue an apology to Sam. I really messed up his last name. It's Sam Demra.
Well, I would, and are you related to Betsy?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It's French Canadian, so it should be Desmarais. It's got kind of butchered into Demera, but I've heard Damaris.
Oh, I got it wrong twice?
I've heard Damaris a million.
I've heard
million
Damaris.
times,
I'll
so-
stop.
Yeah.
Good. All right, hey, thank you, Sam,
Yes.
very sincerely.
Thank
Bruce,
you.
Bruce, would you introduce our next topic,
Yes,
please?
item number 5, back in June, Becky Majerus, our Director of Facilities, introduced us to an RFP, a request for proposals process that Facilities was going through to try acquire a maintenance management system, which would be the first in the city of Fargo that I'm aware of, and probably long overdue. Anyway, since that time, Becky, correct me if I'm wrong, but a provider has been selected, and she's even advanced to the point where she's got a go-live date in mind. And I asked her if she could update this committee, because really a valuable effort going on. And so, Becky?
Well, Bruce allotted 20 minutes for me to speak, and this is probably going to be about 2. So, yes, as he said, we did the RFP process in July. We did virtual interviews with, I believe it was 4 different providers that had submitted responses. And we included our maintenance techs to make sure that this was something they were going to use. We had IS involved to make sure that it was going to live on our system appropriately. And ultimately, we selected the vendor Limble. This has been used in multiple other municipalities, and I spoke with somebody out in Utah, and I'm blanking on where the other one was, but both were very happy with the product. As Bruce said, we selected this vendor and we started working with them. In August, we started the implementation. My facility manager, Jeremy, is working very closely with them. And we are looking at a go-live of mid-January. So moving very, very quickly. We've uploaded over 400 assets into the system. And I believe we are approaching 1,000 preventive maintenance tasks that are being uploaded into the system. So we can monitor the maintenance better. So it's not just paper and in people's heads. And this is also going to help us build out a better capital planning forecast for the future. We'll be able to plan out much further. So we're really excited to get this going and get this up and running in January. So beyond this meeting, which is our last, of course, we are still working on our initiatives. So John, you can rest assured, we're still looking at the sustainability of it. And I think I speak for other people, Ben and Julie, we're always looking for those sustainable options that are the right thing to do. If I can just add one more thing, at the last Bison game, I actually sat next to a gentleman who has a new startup, and their business is, they have a technology where they can come in and evaluate your HVAC systems in your buildings and offer suggestions for better efficiency, just in the way you set everything up in the system. So as soon as we get this CMMS project completed and up and running, I plan to connect with him and hopefully bring him in. There is no cost to have them come in and evaluate the system, so figured why not? So yeah, we're already looking at another initiative.
Could he help you evaluate the Bison loss?
We did talk a little bit about that. No.
Vicki, oftentimes in a household, the maintenance test, you do maintenance tests as well. Furnace filter, how often do you change the different things that people would do? And then you hear about people that suddenly their furnace breaks down or something breaks down or whatever. Is there some task environment that helps people figure that out? Because does the furnace last for 20 years, 60 years, 20 years? Is there a way, predictability? I know you and I get into it, the boiler's gonna go out in so many years.
Yes.
You need to replace it. Is there, the question of AI, or is there some toolkit that would help people assess that and or remind them as well, time to do a furnace fill?
Sure. I am not as familiar with residential programs, but that is definitely what this CMMS is built. The third party that that's helping us with our implementation, they have been uploading industry practice standards, which we'll review and make sure that they're appropriate for our particular needs. But those industry standards, I would say, from a residential perspective, I would work with your provider, whoever installed the equipment, ask them what the lifetime expectancy is. What is that life cycle? What is the recommendation for how often they should change the filters?
So when you do this theoretically on a budget to the city, right? You have task assignments that your team has to do every year, can be kind of spaced out.
Yep.
Again, is the program nice enough to help you figure out how to balance that load so that certain things are done summer, winter, whatever?
Yes.
So in theory, it would help more efficiency?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then
It'll help
less
us-
manpower, like Ben says, then I don't have as many people, but I make it work?
I think we are stretched pretty thin as far as manpower goes, so I think this is just gonna make us better at what we do and also help us capture maybe some things that have been missed.
Thank you.
Was this the discussion point that caught James Hand all excited a few meetings back?
Yes, it was.
He's still excited. Look at him.
Hold myself back.
Yeah, I can see it. I just feel it from over here.
James might know about a residential program or a product for managing your residential equipment.
I mean, depending on what you're talking about, so if you're talking your furnace, a lot of even just thermostats, they have reminders built in. You just need to go to the settings and turn it on. But like Becky said, referring to whoever installed it, usually there's a sticker on your furnace that says who and when, and if they've serviced it, that track record, you can look them up and give them a call. I will say, using like a ChatGPT or something, take a picture of that sticker and say, what should I be doing? It's pretty incredible, the results you'll get, even just from that. And then personally, I just set a reminder in my phone that says every 3 months, I think I need to change the filter, and it has the filter size and requirements that I use and the link to where I usually purchase them from, and try to automate that type of stuff as much as that personally can. But yeah, it is, if you went into ChatGPT and say, hey, I'm worried, I'm a homeowner, what do I need to do on a regular basis to make sure all my things are taken care of, my furnace, my da-da-da. It's pretty incredible what it can spit out for you. And, some of these things you need to verify, but you can definitely learn a lot from some pretty simple prompting.
They're concerned because your parents probably did it. When you have new homeowners, they just come into a house, they have no clue. And then like Mike, when he's in an older house, he's got to figure it out. Newer house, what do you do? What are the changes? And I just always think about the cold winter night when somebody's furnace goes out. They should have known it was headed that way, so.
Speaking of that, I just fixed my furnace. I just changed my furnace, so if the power goes out, you can plug it into my inverter. So it's a simple thing that we could promote for the city, and actually power companies could maybe help. I know there might be some code issues, Sean, I'm not sure, but it's really simple. And let's, if that's the case, let's change the code, because think about Texas. They were out of natural gas for a long, long time. They were using pickups to try to run their furnaces. So if we need to change code, let's do that, because we need to be able to have an auxiliary source for powering, heating our homes. You lose your fridge, you lose your stuff, thousands of dollars, people, it's a simple thing. So that's a suggestion I would make. And don't come to my house till you change the code.
Yeah,
Mike who?
I'd say emergency backups are always a good idea, right? Especially from the power
Yeah,
companies
I've
here.
got
Power
that.
outage can happen, and there are processes in place for whether it's a battery inverter, whether
Right.
it's a generator. There
Yep.
are interconnection policies in place. You just need to
Right.
reach out to the utility
Yeah.
company and go through that process, so.
It's actually to code.
Perfect. I won't come knocking and check then.
Okay.
Becky, I was just curious, what was the name of that startup, that HVAC
Yeah.
efficiency company? Do you recall?
Ooh,
And if you don't worry, I was just
I
curious.
can almost visualize the card, but it's escaping me
Yeah,
at the
no
moment.
worries, just
Yeah.
curiosity.
Yeah.
As a last task assignment, could you send it to the committee committee
Sure.
members? Thank you.
My brain goes different places, but when I hear ChatGPT, a lot of people don't know the co-inventor, president of ChatGPT is from Thompson, North Dakota.
Wow.
Who would think that? I mean, you know, look at the impact on the world from a little tiny North Dakota community. All right, anything else from this topic? Really good, Becky, thank you, and I'm glad you got James Hand all excited again about this. It's just, all right. Bruce, anything else on the agenda before we go to public comment? We have somebody in the audience. Is it Night Skies? Is that who I see out there? Were you here to speak to us? If you would like to introduce yourselves and go to the, you've been here before, and you're a figurehead here.
I appreciate that, sir. My name is Patrick Summer, and I'm a representative of Dark Sky International. I have had the fortune of speaking with several of you before and in front of this committee back in the day. I'm not really here to rehash artificial light at night, but I'll take a couple of questions if you want at the end. I'm basically here to thank you, all of you, both current and former members of this committee. You've raised awareness as best you all could during some of the most trying years and challenging times of our lives. You've warned us that we're on a somewhat unsustainable path, and done all that you can to provide solutions that might stand a chance of action in this city and the state. It has inspired and provided a lot of us, and provided the rarest commodity in our current climate, which is hope. Hope that some of us care not only about the future, but our current situation and how we can build a system that is fair and sustainable for all of us. Fargo has an opportunity to lead our state in this region in this continued pursuit. So I just ask all of you, in whatever capacities you serve the community or your companies, to keep on this spirit that began anew in 2019, confront the environmental challenges and sustainability facing us all. You can help lead us there, whatever capacity and roles your fate leads you to. So that's basically what I'm here for, just to thank all of you for that time. And yeah, artificial light at night, easiest environmental sustainability issue to go after. So any questions about that, let me know.
Anybody have any questions for Patrick while he's at the microphone? You know, you impacted me because I've set up a little project up north near the northern border, and my yard light has a switch on it when I had them install it, so I can have complete total darkness. In honor of you, because I wouldn't have known you could do that, or the value of we're not used to not seeing absence of light. And it's really startling to be in a complete total dark. What is it, 12% of the population doesn't have, it's a number.
Significantly more than that. Roughly 90% of North America does not live under light polluted skies, or does live under light polluted skies. a good chunk of America will not ever see something like the Milky Way. I'm going to get Sam's last name from one of you before I leave, because I wanted to talk to him about the most recent science that came out this summer that plants are doing significantly worse in both carbon sequestration and just their overall circadian rhythms. So cities lighting up all these pollinator gardens and all the native prairies don't do those gardens and prairies any favors, and they are reducing the efficiency at which they help us in those gardens and prairies. So parks districts might play a pivotal role in a community's environmental sustainability efforts. So I'm definitely getting his last name butchered or not.
Anybody else for Patrick before he leaves?
No, I have a comment.
Absolutely.
I certainly appreciate your work, and I think it's extremely important. I think people underestimate how much light is affecting all living creatures. I have a story about my neighbors who decided to install LED programmable permanent Christmas lights on the side of their house. And they set them so that they're multicolored and they flash on and off. And in my living room, it looks like a strobing discotheque. And so I wish your message could reach them. I don't know what to do about it, but that's an illustration of how clueless people are about what these lights are doing to our environment and our health. So thank you for your work.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Conversations, first of all, help a lot, especially with neighbors. Dark Sky and me, I'm not going to be one to dampen Christmas lighting or spirits. However, they don't need to be on all night long, and especially if they're going in your window. That's a trespass issue as surely as if they were walking around on your yard. So conversations help, and conversations matter. If we go out to a neighbor or a city or a business and say, hey, you're shining your light in my night and disrupting my sleep, is there anything you can do?
Yeah, it's kind of like 4th of July.
Yes.
Like, I'm not a big fan of fireworks, but one night a week, who cares?
Right.
You know, this isn't just Christmas, it's year round. These are permanent lights that they run all year long, and I mean, is there any recourse with the city I get it about the conversations, but I've tried, and.
John, would there be any recourse for city with space issues like that?
For permanent Christmas lights, no. If they did have some kind of floodlight or something like that, we could contact them and ask them to point it a different direction. So there's light pollution things that we do have out there, but as far as permanent Christmas lights and things, no, we don't have any codes or any kind of ordinances or anything that prohibit us or allow us to contact those homeowners and ask them to shut them off, so.
We can always look and evolve policies if there are examples out there in the world that we can emulate locally. We might find other people have addressed this, and Patrick, if you could alert us to that, maybe there's things we could actually contemplate doing.
I certainly could look into that.
Mayor?
Well, I don't think anybody envisioned that people would put permanent lights in their house now, because you can buy a set that does permanent lights. Christmas is over, you have a different theme, and there's another theme, and there's another theme. So it is something that, John, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. You just need to learn how to disco, so I don't know.
Aren't times changing? Anybody else for Patrick?
I just do have one more comment. I do believe there is diffusers and stuff that they can put on those lights so that they don't project out as far and they just project down and wash the wall. So you could ask them if there's anything like that for the product they have in their home. A diffuser, it's a light diffuser. It's basically a little clip you put on there that blocks the light from going out and directs it more down.
People don't know the consequences or results sometimes to impacts on other people, So Greta, that's a real good ordinary citizen's consideration. Anybody else? All right. Wrapping up, thank you very much. And you do really good work, and you've been a really good advocate and have certainly got our attention. This is our final meeting, and it doesn't mean things stop in life. I'm just reminded back, though, where did this all come from this time around? And Greta Thunberg, was leading a youth effort around the planet about planet action and heightening the awareness of the young population, and that landed in Fargo. We had a youth effort out around City Hall where there were lots and lots of people asking and showing up visibly to challenge us to step up our game plan for climate action and resiliency. And so then that led to right before Thanksgiving, maybe, I don't know, 4 years ago, I'm not sure, Bruce, but we held just a public listening forum here in City Hall in this chamber. And I believe, no doubt about it, people were surprised at the turnout of people who showed up at a noon hour, an early afternoon, to just simply address the topic of climate issues and climate action and climate concerns based on what was happening in the world then, topic-wise. So that was really compelling to have people, and we had pages and pages and pages of notes of suggestions. Do this, do this, do this, can you do this, can you do, it was just people speaking up. So that led to us, and this is not new. Mike Williams, when he was a city commissioner, what were you, Commissioner, 12 years, Mike?
Renewable energy and conservation.
And that was, they did this, and Bruce was city administrator. And you folks did this long before all of us and long before these topics, but you were already in that lane of actioning things that would be constructive in that light. So this isn't the end of the world that we're concluding now, but the reality is, there are different times. There's just so many topics. You asked about data centers, and we're data centers, and then you have data centers that they're talking up to 8 of them in North Dakota, and just one of them up here is going to potentially take 20% of our entire energy production of the state, they're saying. Just one center, and so on. And then what are the implications of that? What are the consequences of that? And then we're in a state that's an energy state. We produce more energy than you can shake a stick at, in this state. And that's our cash cow, frankly, at the state coffers. And so coal's getting a new look. We had evolution of coal where they're going to clean coal and then closing coal mines. Well, that's all changing. And then with the whole oil energy issues happening, and then the squelching down of sustainable green energies, topic-wise in the country, it's just a really wild, crazy time out there. We have, some of us at this table were really excited for a moment when we had a multi-million-dollar grant to potentially convert our LED lights, and that fell through. In another part of the state, somebody had, I don't know, $1.5 million water retention sewage pond or whatever that the federal monies got pulled because, if I remember right hearing it, it had the word resiliency in it. So I want to thank all of you for your being here, representing the entities you wear hats at this table for. I think that the connecting of us to each other, the sense of each other and the roles we play, it doesn't stop as Ben goes back to his department, or as Julie goes back to transit, or as Becky goes back to facilities, or as Sean's going back and inspecting the whole, and the planning department. This work doesn't stop, but for a moment in time, we're obviously pulling in our horns and refocusing on things to try not be fighting with our federal leaders. We need to find ways we can work together and cooperate and win. And I really like and appreciate the youth. Even your questions today, you're kind of fearless. You're not afraid to ask a tough question, and our youth should never be chilled in that capacity where they're afraid to stand up and speak out and ask things. So it's been a really, and there's no doubt about it, Bruce has been the driving force of this committee because he has the wherewithal and the history and the knowledge of all of you in all your departments and what you've all done and what's in that white paper. If for no other reason our existence, just the creation of the white paper reflects the history of what has Fargo done. What's our track record? Where have we made gains? That alone was worth it for this effort, because you've created a baseline. for us to refer back to, and an acknowledgement of actions that have been on this path already. I don't think any of us want to waste energy and want to be, harming the planet and the environment. That's not where we're at. But everybody also has, and we're in budget challenges, it's important that our people stay in the desks at the tables where they're at, where their work is their highest priority. And we have to be able to justify pulling directors of departments out into other meetings, other activities, and redirecting their focuses when they've got a pile of stuff already in front of them to address. So I'm just acknowledging where we've been, what we've done as a group collaborating. I think that the times will come around again. We all have a sense of partners now that is going to be valuable for us going forward. It's just it's important that we're there and we be present. But I can't thank you all enough. And the relationship building here will have an ongoing impact going forward result, regardless of if the SRC committee's meeting quarterly. Bruce, why don't you join in? And you're the heart and soul behind this, really, frankly.
Well, I was thinking back to how did all this start, and I don't know how far back we go, Mike, but Mike came up with this kind of cute saying, if it smells, it sells. And that really kind of accelerated, but there are opportunities here. We're talking about the gas that was escaping at the landfill. That's kind of what started the whole thing back in 2000 or something. And then from that, we built into some biodiesel experiments, some hybrid buses, and it was kind of fun looking at, and a lot of cases making a good business sense for it. So it's been fun for me.
Mike?
So I just want to thank everybody, but, this isn't an end at all. So, we can't move forward till we know where we've been. And that's why I gave your little handouts today, because, there's been leaders through many years. And I want to thank them, Mayor Wallaker, I remember in 2006, I sent him up to Alaska with the mayor's climate agreement. And he came back and he saw some polar bears and it was a change. And I want to thank you, Mayor Mahoney, for signing on that agreement in 2004. And so really this is a challenge, but when we look at what we've accomplished, it's because we've worked together. So, we got kind of screwed on the Georgetown Energy Prize. We were supposed to get $5 million when we started that thing. And it ended up being, we'll get you a loan. Well, we can do that. I mean, what is it? But anyway, the work that was done with the students, the K through 12 students, I think I told you guys about a class in Roosevelt. They saved 50% on their classroom, saving energy. I mean, it just shows. So then they brought it home. And then the same thing with the NDSU students that presented it. They put together the information, working with the power companies, getting information power companies weren't really all that excited to share in the first place to put it together. And when it was a 2-year challenge, and we said at the library, Dan Molly and Molly and I, if we can save 5% on energy in 2 years, who cares if you win the award? You're saving money. And we did. We saved over 5% on municipal and residential buildings over those years. So conservation saves and pays. So we always say we don't have enough money to do this. Well, we do. The money, Bruce and I have always said, the money you don't spend is the best money you can find. And so it makes fiscal sense. So conservation saves and pays. We're very conservative people. We don't want to waste stuff. We can find money when we don't waste. And with the AI, we can track this stuff. So I'm thinking, I like the accolades. So in 2007, the Earth Day Network, we have Earth Day every year since the 70s, we were number one. We were A+ in the paper, the number one community for environment. So I had to use ChatGPT to find it, but then I did. So I put it in your deal. We were the number one city for overall environment in 2007. And then the Go 2030, we think about what their priorities are. 8,700 people weighed in on my sidewalk, they called it. We hired the best municipal or city planner there is in the country, Bob Berkebile, and BNIM, we had 11 responses. We picked the one, Bob Berkebile and BNIM. Greenberg, Kansas got blown off the face of the earth, and they thought, what are we gonna do? Are we gonna even bother to rebuild, or are we just gonna quit and go? And they said, no, we're gonna stay. They hired him, and they're 100% renewable at Greenberg, Kansas. Kansas not a real left-leaning state, but they understand that saving money is our job. It's not just something that you want to do, it's our job to save money. So, you think about these partnerships. So this, you think about the Fellowship of the Ring, I'm just thinking about us. Partnerships from all over the place, and that's how we got these awards. There was no one person. It was people working together that we don't even have in the room that can take pride in what they did. But anyway, I'm going to challenge. Sadia, I think you're the smartest one in the room, and I like your idea about the youth group, but I'm going to challenge you to find a way that we can keep a connection going. It doesn't have to be everybody at this table, but a representative from the city, a representative from the power company, a representative from schools and parks, to keep this connection going. So it's a flow of information. When we hear about the parks, about, geez, there's a fund here, there's a fund there. Well, we don't know that unless we're communicating. So there's money that can be available beyond the money that we'll save by doing these things. So if it's a fiscal issue, it is. We need to do this. This is our job as people, as residents, and it just happens to be good for the environment. So I just want to thank everybody.
He's the old guru of this whole topic in this state, and I still look at you and you look like Bill Guy. Just saying. If anybody remember pictures of Bill Guy? Anybody else? Running around the room, any comments before we hit our final adjourn? Mayor?
Yeah, John, I want to thank you to be the chairman of this, and Ruth, I think you did an excellent job, and I think we should give a round of applause to our chair and our.
And I just want to, please know you're appreciated, and that your roles are important when you go back to where you're going to, and the connections we have here are ongoing. And we're all on the same team. We're working together. And I just, for me to get to know Cass County Electric and excel to this level like we've been able to, and to put faces to the park districts and the schools is really important. Not just our own lanes, but to each other. So, and youth leaders, eventually you're our mayor, and then you get to do things that are based on your sense of the world you're in then and your peers, because that's not far away. Any final comments, anybody else before?
I just want to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to serve on this board. I think it's such an honor to be able to represent the youth of Fargo in an issue that's going to impact our lives regardless of how long we live and where we live. And being able to present on my project and being able to hear everyone be very passionate about keeping Fargo sustainable is really nice, and it just gives me hope for the future.
All right, on that note, we'll conclude today and go forward, and thanks again for all you've all done and for what you'll do in the future.